Welcome to Men, Sex, and Tantra.
Discover what your parents, porn, and religion never taught you about being a man and having extraordinary sex. Get ready to have your mind blown and your world rocked. Hey everybody, I sure hope you liked the last episode as we're pulling the curtain back and revealing what women really think and feel about men, sex, dating, things like that. Today, and by the way, yes, this is Men, Sex, and Tantra, the podcast. And today I have Sasha with me, and as we've done before, I don't talk a lot about what we're going to talk about, so it's exciting to me and adventurous to me as well. I never know what's going to happen here. So hey Sasha, thanks for coming on today. And we had started a little bit with you saying something like, it's crazy town out there. So what's that all about?
Yeah, that's the very polite version of what I said. So yeah, no, I mean, it's just an absolute shit show. I think I guess my question is, especially since you're doing this, are you talking to anyone who's like pleased with what's going on out there? Because it seems particularly heinous.
In relation to what?
Dating.
Dating? Oh, dating. Well, I don't know how much you follow my social media, but I have the Scammer Boyfriend Diaries updates, right? I'm actually writing a book on scammer boyfriends.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it depends on the age range dating and whatever else. But so yeah, when you say crazy town, what kind of things are you talking about? What are you finding out to be happening out there that's upsetting?
Yeah, well, so there's the overt awful behavior, men who are just overly aggressive or pushy or things like that. But I think that what's perhaps maybe unusual to some people, and then to others they will probably resonate very, very, very much, is that it's actually kind of the everyday mild slights that is the most frustrating, and just how much they accumulate and add up. So everything from, what's the point? I'm not going to hear back, or getting ghosted. And so it's just, I call it like death by 1,000 cuts. It's just very demoralizing. And it's very, it just feels sort of pointless and hopeless. And so the worst offenders, to my mind, it's actually not really the worst. It's the people who you think like, oh, they seem decent, they seem normal, maybe there's something there. And then it's just, you can never count on anyone seeing anything through, or any like engagement, or ever even hearing. So I think the frustration is, it's funny because people, when they ask for feedback, I'll tell them, hey, I don't feel a connection, and here's why, if they want to know why. And they're like, wow, thanks, I never know, people just disappear on me. And they've gotten some really helpful feedback. And so I think it's the combination of, just people who are overtly awful, but then this constant feeling of, you just feel like you don't matter, like humans don't matter, like it's just like a turnstile, revolving door. It's kind of like, okay, one date and next, one date and next, one date and next. People feel very disposable and transactional, and it just gets frustrating. I've mostly stopped, especially with like online dating. I mean, I still date, and I'm out there, but it's become something that feels like such a chore, and so such a waste of my time, and so not fun or interesting or engaging, that it's become, even though it's funny because meeting somebody is probably my number one priority at my point in this life right now, but actual dating has become the lowest priority because it feels insufferable. And so that's the kind of weird mix.
Yeah, so what I noticed with online now, I can say, because like I've been doing this a long time, like the online dating. So I was online dating when it wasn't online. It was actually in the newspaper, the little paper called The Stranger, when you could actually write, you would write something, and somebody would send a mail to the stranger, and they would write back for you in the column. That's when I started like this kind of weird online dating. And
Yeah.
then it was a little bit more interesting because you had to be interesting when you were writing back, and you'd see your personal ad show up every week or however often they were doing that, and then wait for that response. So it had some like anticipation and excitement. And then from there, of course, we went to the where they'd actually then you get to do that, but then share phone numbers. So there'd be all that talking stuff. And then, as it progressed throughout. So I've been doing this type of dating thing for a long time. I've met some really awesome people that I'm still friends with over the years, met some horrifyingly scary stuff, and I've had everything in between. But I will say, so in the last few years, I've been single in the last 5 years, and have tried to do some online dating that has once again inspired me to write my Scammer Boyfriend Diaries book. But when you said the word disposable, I really feel it because even me, like when I get on there and it's swipe this, swipe that, and literally we're like taking this nanosecond to look at a photo, right? And then yes, no, what? I mean, there's like, what is it? Feels weird to me to do it as well.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think it's very scary because if you think about it, I think the scariest parts of our culture are the ones that become normalized and we don't stop to think about, that it's just like, oh yeah, that's just how it is and what we do. And then when you really, I meditate every day. I try to really slow things down for myself and for others. And it's also, I feel like it's like key to how I contribute to the world is by doing that. And when you really stop to think about that and the implications and the effects, there's no way that can't be a bad thing. I mean, just to scroll and it's endless and you feel like, well, it doesn't matter if this one doesn't work out or if this one doesn't work out or if this one. And so we never have to, relationships, and I don't even mean just romantic ones, are challenging and present challenges, and working through them and dialogue and communication, that is, probably the number one skill that is required for everything for the world to function. And we're essentially cultivating this landscape in which you never have to go beyond the most basic cursory interactions. And so we become even more socially inept than we already are. And I would say our social and emotional IQ is already disturbingly low. And this can only make things much, much worse. And, when you think about the statistics, like younger generations are having sex less and blah, blah. And again, that sounds not so terrible. Like, great, they're not, or not great. I'm not trying to slut shame or sex shame or anything like that. But, the reasons are not, even if you want to go with that's great, they're not being as, maybe like sexually putting themselves in a vulnerable position. But it's not because of a good reason. It's because there's just so many other alternatives, and they don't know how to put themselves out there and be around others and suffer through the pain of, rejection, and how you and being vulnerable about your feelings and telling somebody you like them. And so that's, I mean, just the lack of ability to have basic human communication, it's profound. And it's also funny because then when you are somebody who can have that, I have this running joke that what we call confrontation or conflict is communication, and what we call communication is avoidance. And I think that kind of summarizes the landscape, where the norm is just to avoid. And then if you are direct and talk about it, even if you do it in the exact same tone I'm doing with you, it's like, whoa. It's very disturbing.
So like with the online dating, back to that kind of thing, because I know there's a lot of men that are listening to this that are wondering, like, what are they doing wrong? What are they doing right? one of the things that I find, and you said this earlier too, is the let's say, okay, you decide to swipe. I don't even remember what swipe side is good or bad, but anyway, so when I'm on there and I figure it out and it's a yes to somebody, then that part starts, and you that communication part starts. And what I always find so interesting is the lack of, I guess, the lack of care. Like, it's a numbers game, because this becomes a numbers game. It's like somebody says, hey, how are you? I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my God, that's the least inspiring thing on the planet, to ask somebody, hey, how
Yeah.
are you? Because it's a close. I just say, good. Now what? Now what are
Mhm.
we doing? So I try to be witty. I have a line that I use, which is, hey, so what's your take on Brussels sprouts?
Yeah. Mhm.
Right, to try to be funny or
That's a
interesting.
very controversial topic.
Yeah, and it is, get a little, I'm provocative. I like to get that really scary stuff right out there right away and find out about the whole Brussels sprout thing. But the it's always like, will somebody play with me back?
Yeah.
But it is disheartening. Like, yes, it could be that you feel like there's something clicking and then the person goes away.
Yep.
Now, they don't owe me anything. Nobody really owes us
Yeah.
anything. That's true. I'm like that, but I'm also like, it seems so easy to just, like you said, just discard that or go. I mean, I try to, if I'm going to be done with somebody, if I know that it's not a thing, I actually will just say it. I'll just say, hey, look, I'm not feeling it. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time. Much luck in what you're looking for and who you're looking for. And I give them a chance to respond,
Yeah.
before I go on, because to me it's just like common courtesy, leaving people.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't owe them, they don't owe me, but that's how I like to roll. That seems like the thing to do. And I get that if you're hitting 100 people up, and this is what I've heard from men, they just say yes to everybody. Like, they just
Yeah.
say yes to everybody and see what happens.
Yeah.
So sometimes they've said yes to you, like, or to me, and I've gone to talk to them, and then they're like, oh, no thanks, because they didn't expect any return. And then once they got a reply, then they go look at my profile.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck, people? It's like, what is
Yeah.
this? So, and that's not me looking for hookups. I'm targeting people who are saying they're looking for relationships,
Yep. Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know?
totally.
Yeah. So what do we do? Is it, I can understand you don't want to waste time, but if you think of meeting or connecting with people as a waste of time, maybe not do it. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Well, it's not that I think meeting people is a waste of time. It's that I think certain ways of going about it and are a waste of time, and certain um I don't want to say people are a waste of time at it, because that sounds a lot more harsh than I mean it, but certain finding out what people are worth your time and not worth your time. And so that process is always going to be like a murky one. But I guess just it's more of how I engage in the world and where I put my intention is what I'm interested in now. And having some kind of trust and faith. I think when I find myself on the apps and I'm kind of swiping and getting into that, I'm usually not being very thoughtful,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm often kind of like distracted or maybe even avoiding. And right now it's like I've just slowed everything down again. That's every time things feel like they're running amok or not good. I've noticed that the faster I go, the less happy I am, and the slower I go, the happier I am. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, I take that same approach to dating, where even like it sounds funny, but the slowness, it's like when I walk around outside, I've been going at the snail's pace, and I live in New York City, so that's a very um I mean, I might as well be like punching puppies in the face. That's like a
Yeah.
very horrible thing to do here.
Yeah, I hear
In
you.
the
Slow
Yeah,
in New York. Yes. That's sort of like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But it is funny because it has changed certain things. Like a few people, both men and women, have stopped and commented about it, because there's the slow walker that's just totally clueless and just slow and blocking the sidewalk. And And that's not what I'm doing either. What I'm doing is like very intentional. I'm literally kind of like paying attention to my foot hitting the pavement and everything I'm seeing, and I'm stopping, and I'm noticing places in my neighborhood that I never even noticed before that are like a block or two away. And it's interesting how that has changed things, where people stop me and they're like, hey, like, what's up? And I'm like, hi. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm just, just going for a walk and observing and enjoying. And I have this sort of peace and equanimity. And it's funny because often people will ask if I'm like high or something. And
Yep.
I never am. I'm not sober in the like the so in the use of the word, in the sense that I don't drink. I do drink and those things, but
I'm gonna corral this back to dating.
no.
I'm
Well,
gonna grab you and
it is back to dating,
because what I want to know is like, so let's say you're on an app. What, other than how somebody looks, what can a man do to introduce himself well, or what are those initial reactions that work for you?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's where I was going with that, with this slowness, is like
Cool.
the entire way I'm existing in the world is like getting people to stop and talk to me. And the people who are stopping and talking to me, they're interested in that way of being. And those are people I'm interested in, not, sitting and swiping behind a screen and thoughtlessly, mindlessly just like scrolling and whatever, going out to clubs and bars and like hoping I run into a hot guy. It's like I'm just existing in this world in this way. And then people stop, and there's the way that it works. I get catcalled and harassed a lot, and I get just stopped a lot by men, and that's not working. But the people who are approaching me, dating wise, they're coming with this curiosity of like, whoa, who are you? What are you? Like, like want to share space with me. And so that,
You're going to
if
start
they haven't seen,
a new trend. It's going to be slow walk dating.
yeah, I mean, that's just, I was giving you one example, but there's like many examples of it where I am, if the thing isn't working for you, make your own thing. Like I remember when I was doing online dating a while ago and I was getting really sick of it. I love that you use the word earlier, play, and that's a huge, huge word to me. And I'm always trying to, like, I think joy is our birthright. I think we're meant to play. I think that humans have gotten very disconnected from what it means to be human. And I remember like just being like, okay, I need to find the fun, the joy, the levity here. And I would just come up with random date ideas and be like, hey, do you want to have a silent date? And like, I was like, that's probably going to be the most awkward, uncomfortable thing ever. And I'm like, cool, let's try it. Like,
I love it.
Because I would rather have some like really weird, awkward first than just like the same old, what do you do? Where are you from? Like, it's like after a while, it's like, blow my fucking brains out. I can't stand this anymore. And so it's like, to me, it's like, and not to mention what a great litmus test, because people who are going to not like that and think that's weird, that's wonderful, because they're so not going to like me and I don't have to waste my fucking time, and neither do they. And people who are going to love that, that's already a person who's just in a different frame of mind that's going to be more like my kind of person. So it wasn't a non-dating non sequitur. It was very much like this way of being in the world has been really magical.
I like that. And so I think so then to me, what I'm hearing is that the mindlessly online dating, swipe, swipe, swipe is just not happy making for you. And that if you literally move in the world in a way that's true to you and right to you, then the people that, resonate with that are showing up, and that they're coming in, and you're automatically disqualifying already people that don't vibe with that.
Yes. And also, even if then I can carry that idea even into dating, in the sense that or into online dating, where, I can, just being intentional and thoughtful, like, what am I doing and why? Not just sitting there because, I need to take a piss and I don't want to, not, God forbid,
be alone with your pee.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be alone with my pee. I have to take my phone
That
with
should
me.
be the title of this show. But I'll make myself. I've actually I've actually sat and defined certain parameters or behaviors. Like I no longer, I don't bring my phone at all to certain places. I'd never bring it to the restroom anymore. And so, and I'll choose things like, don't swipe when I'm busy or waiting, like make a predetermined time to swipe, try not to swipe outside of that, give
Mm.
myself a certain number of swipes that day, and then be like, well, what are the things that I'm looking for? What do I care about? And so, if I'm only going to give myself 10 minutes and a max of 3 swipes, then I might look at them a little more closely. And yeah, so just being there instead of
Yeah.
avoiding the constant pain and discomfort and loneliness.
What do and are you, so when you look, so you're looking at a dating app, um, the visual components you're looking for, are you pretty tight in the vision of somebody? Because the reason I'm saying this is I know that like we can set pictures up to look good or bad, and they
Mhm.
really don't have any dimension. Like for instance, I can look at somebody and not be attracted to their photo, but if I were to meet them, the way their face moves when they talk, the
Yeah.
way their energy, all of these things change, the way they light up. So even video is better than just a flat photo. But how do you determine when you are if you only have 3 swipes, what are your parameters?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. There's so much that's, you know, I'm looking for a three-dimensional human being, and that's very
Right.
hard to be reduced into a photo.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's certain things like, I look for um, men, like men who smile, and not just smile, but like a really warm smile. It's interesting because when you look at photos, I don't know if there's some kind of agreement that men sign when they sign up for apps that says will not smile or must not smile in my pictures, but um
Must hold a fish, but no smile.
exactly. And I don't and I understand, the socialization of men for that, but also part of what I'm looking for is a guy who's not trying to be your traditional macho guy. And I'm also not trying to like, oh, smile, fake smile. Like I'm looking for a genuineness, a warmth. I'm also looking for somebody who's like playful. So somebody who like his pictures aren't all like serious. Like I don't want some like GQ model-y type of polished photos. I certainly don't want like the hunting ones. I mirror selfies, bathroom selfies, like ones where you can see your happy trail and that are suggestive in ways that are like bro, what are you doing here on or swiping with me who says, I'm interested in finding my soulmate type
No,
shit.
because they haven't read your profile because they're not reading profiles when they're
Yeah,
swiping.
like men who look like they take themselves really seriously or have a stick up their ass. And
Yeah.
I get on the one hand there's so much you can't see about a person in a photo, and on the other hand they can be very revealing too.
Absolutely. Well, the bathroom selfies always crack me up. Those are kind of like, okay. My least favorite are the guys that feel like they have to, I don't know, why are they putting their phone in their lap and taking a picture upwards? I'm always thinking to myself, why is your phone in your lap? Why are you looking down at the camera is looking up your
Oh,
nose? Like what is that about?
well, actually, I'm glad you said that because I'm literally writing these things out. And so that's something I added to my list that I've noticed more, that it's photos or men where they're looking down at you. And I think that's actually really interesting. And if you read into it, which I think, there's our conscious behavior and then our subconscious behavior. And then there's all these stupid, silly, like whatever, I was in a rush. But if you really think about it, and I've noticed this more and more, the proliferation of profiles where men that are literally looking down at you in their photos. And I think that if you want to read into that metaphorically, it's actually given me chills to think about it. That it's like, um, especially because I do see so much misogyny and so much. I think the result of there's kind of like an incel culture and a popularization of that and some hateful stuff. And I think that to me, it's actually suggestive of something a lot more sinister and scary. So yeah, I'm with you.
It's so funny because, while you're saying it, I can think about that. I think and please excuse the chanting monks that have now shown up on Friday here in the background, but I come with my own chanting monks if you hear them. The
I love it.
Yeah, isn't that great? I see, I don't think that was my first thought about that. But once you said it, it's like, I wonder how much of that plays into it. To me, it was always kind of more of a like, why is this down in your lap? But maybe men are thinking, women are looking at me. I'm always looking down at a woman. She's always looking up. Maybe they're just tall men. I don't even know what to read into that. But, it could be. It could be what you're saying, that it's a more dominant posture. Though I always laugh about it because, of course, it's one of the least flattering angles that we can ever shoot ourselves at. So that's why I was thinking, dude, why are you doing that? Why don't you just put your face, camera in your face, don't hold it in your lap. Maybe it's supposed to make us think they're holding their penis when they're holding their phone. I don't know.
And I don't want to be somebody who's like, reading into every little thing. But at the same time, I think, like I said, we have so much of our behavior is subconscious and we don't even realize it. And some of it's just a throwaway, like whatever, silly, means nothing. But when you start seeing a bunch of it, it does make you wonder, like, I wonder whether there's something more to this. I mean, it reminds me of, I learned this recently that, just a quick fact, that there were actually, it was something like 1 in 4. So in terms of old Westerns and cowboys and stuff, we almost never see any images of white or of black cowboys. And I learned that actually 1 in 4 cowboys were actually black. But it was interesting because in films, they never showed them. And if they did show them, they were never allowed to be on the horse because they could never have, we could never be looking up at a black man. And so it's interesting to make that parallel to this. And if there is kind of something more, because film, it's the power of the image and how they're trying to convey something. So it does make you wonder.
All right. So what is your best opening line a man could write? If a dude's like being present, doing all that, and he wants to write to you, what do you like opening lines or conversations to start like?
Yeah, I like them to reference something in my profile so that I know that it's not, I'm not the 800th person that they've said the same thing to. So while I, not to knock you, Tanya, or anything, but while I appreciate the Brussels sprout thing, for me, I wouldn't be super inclined for something like that because I do want to know that they actually read my profile and the message is specific to me. So that's probably the number one thing that somebody can do.
Yeah, I absolutely always do that. Brussels sprouts is my second or third opening line. But I agree too that if it's clear somebody has, and I'll usually write something in my profile that, like a question, are you sapiosexual too? And so if somebody's actually taken the time to read that, that's awesome. I mean, at least read the profile. I mean, that's the thing. Most of the time, the lines that I get are clearly they haven't read the profile. And then it makes me wonder, like, what's going on here? Because then all of a sudden when they do read the profile, it's like they'll have the initial, like, back and forth conversation a couple times. And then it's like they go read my profile. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't know you were. And I'm like, seriously?
You mean that thing that's the first line in my fucking profile? Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah, it's really, it's so weird. So, okay, gentlemen, men listening to this, here's the deal. We're pulling back this curtain on these episodes to hear women talk about the things they're thinking about, the things that are going on for them. And my hope that you're taking away from this, obviously in this episode, is like, I get it, we're busy, but here's hearing Sasha say that she basically is saying she's not going to buy into that. She's going to like be conscious when she's swiping, at least slow down and do that. And I get, just like dick pics are a numbers game, I found out that, like, because I was like, what's up with dick pics? I've seen thousands. I should have kept them and put them on a site and made money. But thousands of dick pics later, I found out that there's a 10%, they work 1 in 10% chance that sending somebody a random dick pic will actually get you some attention. So I get that this numbers game, just say yes to all women, because I do know that men get less responses than women do. Like if men put up profiles, they're less likely to get a response than a woman is. And so in a way it's kind of like, well, just say yes to everybody and then see what happens. But from a woman's perspective, when you do that, guys, I want you to think outside of just yourself here for a minute. Take a moment and think outside of you looking. Many women, when you do that and then ghost them after they say hi or something, you say hi, they say hi back, and then you go look at their profile and ghost them, that this is another human being on the end of this. And I know women who suffer like self-esteem blows when they've had 100 people hit them up and then just ghost them. I mean, it's a thing. It takes a lot of confidence to date anyway. And online dating can really blast through people's confidence. So I'm going to ask us all to be just a little more conscious. Remember, those are people on the other side. Most of them. I mean, even the scammers are people. But, I've dated 150 scammer boyfriends at this point, but knowingly.
No way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I'm writing a book, The Scammer Boyfriend Diaries. Yeah.
No, yeah, you said that, but I didn't realize it was 100. Holy.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck.
I purposely date scammer boyfriends. I mean, yeah, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
wow.
It's very.
Mad respect to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, scammer boyfriends are much less work than real boyfriends. Really, literally, you can just say, hey, yeah, while they tell you all these amazing things about yourself. But if we all were to just remember that there are other people on the end of the picture, the end of the line, that stuff, it doesn't take a lot to just say, hey, thank you for your time. I'm going to be moving on. I'm sure men would want that too if you had some interest, as much as women do. And I want you all to know that, we all, if we want to find somebody, it's hard out there. And the more disconnected we are, the harder it is. So I love Sasha's, slow down, be conscious, start to think about that. And if there's a final message you'd like to leave for the men listening, what would it be, Sasha?
No, I mean, I think it's actually, I think it's just quickly two things. One is, it's crazy because so much of what needs to be said, one would never think would need to be said. Just treat people with basic respect and decency. I think that's, I don't think that I ever could have imagined that would be such a difficult thing in the world. So that, but I think the other thing is that, and I mentioned this really briefly before, I think that because dating and in general, just life feels pretty rough sometimes out there. And I'm definitely somebody who's often experiencing frustration at what I'm seeing. But I think what I like to keep in mind when people talk about the challenges, and I'm sure men are sick of hearing, oh, it's so bad and blah, 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 is to keep in mind that for me, it comes from a place of I know we can do better collectively. I know that women can treat men better. I know that men can treat women better. And so, instead of kind of us all getting defensive and reactive, just stopping and being like, you know what, that there's actually kind of a great point, and we are kind of treating each other like shit, and how can I do my part in making it a little bit better? Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, I like that. And you can hear my monks a little bit louder right now, so sorry about that. I always forget that they're here on Friday. So guys, that's another reveal from behind the scenes, women talking about things that are going on with them with dating and sex and things like that. Thank you so much for coming here and just exposing yourself, or exposing what's going on, and the hopeful message that literally, yes, we could all treat each other better. And I'm going to say, see you next episode, and enjoy my monks for a moment. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
See you guys soon.
I will. Thank you so much.
All righty.
I can't wait to check out your scammer story.
Oh yeah, that'll be
look more into that.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Have a good day.